Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Bachelor of Social Work, BFSW. Semester I, BSW121 Professional Social Work and its Values. Block 2 Basics of Social Work. Unit-2 Professional Social Work, Generic Principles and Their Application, 2.0 Objectives. This unit deals with important areas of social work. After studying the unit, you must be able to understand the factors that influence the emergence of professional social work, understand the generic values and principles of social work, and know how social work intervenes in different levels of society. 2.1 Introduction. Over the years, social work has been transformed from a simple helping profession into an empowering profession and in the process passed many a milestone. With a well-defined and established value system, principles, skills and techniques, it occupies an important position in the society. Today, the social work profession is shouldering the unprecedented responsibility of maintaining a social order that promotes the good of everyone. It is playing an active role in bringing about planned change with an emphasis on humanization of social relationships and transactions for the overall betterment of society. 2.2 Generic Values of Social Work. In this section, you will learn about the values of social work and their application. Any professional activity is guided by a set of values. The body of knowledge of social work has certain core values, evolved over a period of professional practice, that are common to all social work practice situations, irrespective of the methods. Before we dwell on these, let us understand the meaning of the term value. Every social group has its own set of expected behavior patterns that all the members in it strive to follow to accomplish a desired end state. In other words, values are fundamental norms and preferred behavior patterns shared by members of a society or a subgroup, which aim at integrating and channeling the organized activities of the members. A value specifies whether to follow or not to follow a particular behavior. For example, truthfulness is a value every group upholds. The value prescribes that people speak the truth and prescribes telling lies. People are willing to expend certain effort and energy to realize a value. They are ready to sacrifice to uphold a value, and impose sanctions if anyone threatens to deny or defile the value. Some examples of values are honesty, truthfulness, integrity, patriotism, respect for elders, etc. The values of a profession are, therefore, its basic fundamental beliefs and preferred behavior patterns to be upheld by the professionals while practicing social work. As a profession dealing with people having problems of social adjustment and social functioning has its own values that guide its practitioners. The social worker has to follow the social values of the society to which she belongs and has to have thorough understanding and appreciation for the social values prevalent in the society. Many of the problems of the clients are related to a social value that they are not able to uphold. For example, a person not taking proper care of her family has a problem in following the value of responsibility as head of the family. The problem may arise because the client might not have matured mentally, or she does not want to take up the responsibility because it is burdensome. In such a situation, the social worker, having a fair understanding of the value of one's responsibility towards the family, counsels and helps the client to take up her responsibility as the head of the family. Thus, the social worker restores the social functioning of the client. As a member of society, social worker also adheres to these social values. Sometimes, the social worker may get into a dilemma whenever she has to deal with a client who has violated social values which the social worker upholds in high esteem. For example, a social worker, strongly subscribing to the value of honesty and earning by rightful means, may find it difficult to work with an open mind with a client who is an offender and who has caused damage to society. The values of the profession come to the rescue of the social worker in these types of value conflicts and dilemmas. Social work values and basic philosophy are related. Philosophy analyzes the basic principles and concepts of social life. It provides the significance and importance to the values of social life and interprets the ideals and moral behaviors of individuals, society, and their relationships. The values, when organized into a rational system, forms the philosophical background of social work. Social work values focus on three general areas: values about people, values about social work in relation to society, and values that inform professional behavior. Dubois, 1977. A person failing to perform or follow the social functioning prescribed to him, her is considered an unworthy and undesirable element by society. she is denied dignity and considered as a person with no integrity and treated degradingly by the society. People are not so much concerned about why the person has not been performing her social responsibilities properly. This value reminds the social worker that every client that comes with a problem to him, her is not to be considered as a person having no value and no virtue, because she is in a disadvantageous situation. For a social worker, the client is as worthy as any other person, and the client is in that situation because of many other factors acting upon him, her. Given an opportunity to understand and analyze the social situations better, the person may get out of the problem and may not get into a similar problem situation again. Making a person feel worthy of himself, herself, and treating her with dignity encourages the person to engage seriously and overcome her problem and lead a purposeful life. The conviction in dignity, worth, and the integrity of any individual enables the social worker to deal with any type of client with a positive frame of mind. The second value is belief in democratic functioning. Social work relies on democratic process while dealing with the client system. This implies that decisions are taken through consensus and nothing is imposed on the client. The worker, client, and others are all involved in the decision-making process. While doing so, the right of the client in choosing the solution is given utmost importance. The third value is the firm belief in equal opportunity for all, limited only by individual's capacities. Friedlander, 1977. This value expresses the need for social justice. Social work fights against social injustices meted out to the disadvantaged and vulnerable sections of society, irrespective of caste, religion, and economic status, intelligence, etc. Everyone must have equal access to societal resources. At the same time, social work also takes into consideration the limitations of individual's capacity to access these resources and make use of them. For example, if a disabled person wants to pursue mountain climbing as a pastime activity, she should not be disallowed because she is disabled. But at the same time, if she does not have the physical strength and capacity to climb mountains, then she may be made to realize that mountaineering is not suitable for him, her, and she should choose some other activity which is more suitable for him, her. The fourth value is social worker's social responsibility towards himself, herself, her family, and her society. Friedlander, 1977. This value cautions the social worker not to neglect himself, herself, her family, and the society in which she is living while discharging her professional duties. If she fails to perform her responsibilities towards himself, herself, and her family, then she himself, herself, or her family may fail to perform their social functioning and may become failures needing social work intervention. The fifth value is to transmit knowledge and skills to others. Further, it also suggests that sharing of information and skills among the co-professionals goes a long way in promoting the competence of the professional practice. The sixth value is separating personal feelings from professional relationships. The social worker might have undergone similar experiences and been in similar social situations in her personal life, and there is a possibility that she might relate these to the present client and may lose the objectivity needed for social work intervention. Therefore, she should be watchful about any of her personal feelings that are affecting her professional relationship. The seventh value assumes high standards of personal and professional conduct. It emphasizes that the conduct of the social worker should be exemplary at both personal and professional levels. As a professional, she should follow the code of ethics outlined for the social work practitioner. The success of any profession depends on the integrity and character of the professionals practicing it. In social work practice situations, clients come with a number of fears, hesitations, doubts, and distrust about everything around them. They have to confess a number of confidential and emotional information and expect a lot of trust from the worker. Divulging the confidential information carelessly, or making fun of the client's plight, or looking down upon the client does great harm. Even her personal behavior outside practice hours should not only be acceptable to people but should also gain her respectability. The social worker is a respectable member of society, and she should not indulge in any conduct that is considered bad or disapproved by society. Therefore, it is essential that a social worker be a person of high integrity and of high ethical conduct. 2.3 Generic Principles of Social Work. Principles are statements of do's and don'ts to get best results while practicing social work. They are the guideposts for the professional to carry out the work. In the field, principles are elaboration of the values in the form of understandable statements to practice a profession. For example, the value of dignity and worth of an individual is expressed in the principle of belief in the self-determination of an individual or group or a community. The principles are time-tested and arrived at out of vast experience and research. A principle is a verbalized statement of an observed uniformity related to some class of objects. Principles, that is general rules or laws, concepts, fundamental truths, generally accepted tenets, are the means by which we proceed from one situation to another. A.S. Principle of individualization, principle of communication, principle of self-determination, principle of confidentiality, principle of non-judgmental attitude, principle of controlled emotional involvement. Now let us discuss these principles. Principle of acceptance. The client and the social work professional should both accept each other for getting the best results. The client should accept the worker, because the worker is the one who is helping the client to overcome his/her problem situation. In social work situations, the client may approach the social worker directly, or the social worker may be nominated by the agency, or someone might refer the client to the social worker. Unless the client feels that the social worker has the potential to understand his/her predicament and is concerned about helping him/her out of the problem, the client may not cooperate in the relationship through which the social work intervention is to be planned. Any doubt about the competence of the social worker by the client results in serious complications in the helping process. Similarly, the worker should also accept the client as a person with a problem who has come to him/her for help. Irrespective of the appearance and background of the client, the worker should accept the client as he/she is, without any reservations. Sometimes the personal experiences of the worker may come in the way of accepting the client. For example, a worker who was abused by his/her alcoholic father during his/her childhood may find it difficult to accept an alcoholic client who has come for help in restoring his/her family relationships. In this case, the social worker should not be influenced by his/her childhood experience of being abused by his/her alcoholic father, whom he/she hated and rejected, and show hostility or indifference towards the client. Mutual acceptance is the beginning of the process of establishing a strong professional relationship towards working out a solution to the client's social dysfunctioning. Principle of individualization. A belief in the uniqueness of the individual and his/her inherent value lies at the heart of social work practice. Each person's nature is capable of integrating and directing its own forces in a way that is different from that of every other individual nature. Social worker views the problem of each client as specific and helps the client move forward, finding the most satisfactory means for him/her to deal with his/her particular problem situation. This principle reminds the social worker that while dealing with the client, it is to be kept in mind that the worker is not dealing with an inanimate object or inferior being. Because the client could not find a way out of his/her problem, he/she need not be looked down upon as a person without dignity, worth, or value. This is a general response the client gets from the community, and this makes the client feel that he/she is a human being without any worth and develops a poor image of himself/herself. The social worker, as a caring and helping professional, should believe that the client is an individual with dignity, worth, and respect, and has the potential to come out of his/her undesirable situation with dignity and respect given the right environment and encouragement. Further, the social worker should always consider that each client is unique and distinct from other clients having a similar problem, as each person responds and reacts to the same stimuli differently and gets into or gets out of different problem situations in different ways. Principle of communication. In social work, the communication between the social worker and the client is of paramount importance. The communication could be verbal, that is oral or written, or non-verbal, where gestures, signs, or actions are used to send the message. Most of the problems concerning human relations arise due to faulty communication. In communication, a message is sent by the sender and received by the receiver. A true communication takes place when the meanings of the terms and other symbols the sender and the receiver use and act upon are shared and have the same meanings. If the message of the sender is properly or correctly understood by the receiver, then the communication is smooth. But if the receiver fails to interpret the message correctly, the sender wants to convey, then there is a break or misunderstanding in the communication process, which results in confusion and problems. Sometimes, the sender is unable to express the feelings or what she wants to communicate. That also leads to miscommunication. In addition to these, there are other barriers to the smooth flow of messages, such as distance, noise, temperament, attitudes, past experiences, mental capacity to comprehend, and so on. The social worker should have enough skills to grasp the verbal and nonverbal communication of the client. Communication is stressed in social work relationship because the backgrounds of the client and the worker may be different, the mental state of the client and the worker may vary. The environment in which communication takes place may change from time to time, giving enough scope for miscommunication. Therefore, the worker should make all the efforts to see that the communication between him, her and the client is proper. The function of social worker is principally to create an environment in which the client feels comfortable in giving expression to his, her feelings. The atmosphere includes the client's trust and confidence in the worker and the worker's acceptance of the client. The client should be assured that the worker understands correctly what she wants to convey. For this, techniques such as clarifications and reclarifications, elaborating what the client has said, questioning and reframing of what the client has said, can be effectively used. Similarly, the worker has to make sure that the client understands correctly what she is conveying to him, her. For this, the worker may ask the client to repeat what she is saying. In this way, miscommunication between the worker and client can be reduced, and it can be ensured that the worker-client relationship is well established and strengthened. Principle of confidentiality. This principle provides a strong base for effective use of social work intervention. It helps in building a strong worker-client relationship. In social work, it is most important to provide information to the worker. This ranges from simple factual information to what may be very confidential. A person may not be willing to share certain information about his, her personal details with anyone unless the person with whom it is shared is trustworthy. She must have confidence that worker will not misuse it to cause discomfort, or to ridicule, or to cause damage to his, her reputation. In social work, unless the client provides all the information that is necessary for the worker, it is not possible to help the client. For this to happen, the client should have absolute faith in the worker that the information passed on to the worker will be kept confidential and will be used only for assessing and working out possible solutions to the client's problem. That is why the worker should assure the client that the confidential information about the client is not divulged to others to the disadvantage of the client. To follow this principle, the worker faces certain dilemmas. Firstly, should the confidential information be shared with other agency personnel who are associated with the case and fellow professional social workers who too can assist the worker in resolving the problem of the client? Secondly, what should she do about some information concerning the criminal activities of the client, wherein as a responsible citizen she may be required to pass it on to the investigation agencies whenever she is asked? In the case of the former, the social worker may share the information in the best interest of the client, but in the case of the later, it is really tough for the social worker to withhold information as it has been received under the promise of keeping it confidential. In such circumstances, the decision is to be left to the client whether to disclose it to the social worker or not, and the social worker shall make it clear to the client that she cannot give any guarantee of non-disclosure to the concerned authorities, where legal requirements compel ordinary citizens to make disclosure of information received by him, her. Failure to maintain confidentiality seriously affects the worker-client relationship. Therefore, the worker has to show discretion while securing and sharing information about the client with others. Information that is needed should only be gathered from the client. Prior consent of the client is to be taken before sharing the information with even those who are concerned about the client. Principle of self-determination. This principle emphasizes the client's right to self-determination. Every individual has the right to assess what is good for him, her, and decide the ways and means to realize it. In other words, it points out that the social worker should not impose decisions or solutions on the client simply because the client has come to him, her for help. No doubt, the client has come to social worker because she could not solve the problem by himself, herself. The social worker should support and guide the client to develop insights into his, her social situation in the correct perspective and encourage and involve him, her, to take decisions that are good and acceptable to him, her. In this way, the client is helped not only to realize his, her potentialities but also to feel independent and like a person with worth and dignity. Social responsibility, emotional adjustment, and personality development are possible only when the person exercises his/her freedom of choice and decision. Principle of non-judgmental attitude. The principle of non-judgmental attitude presumes that the social worker should begin the professional relationship without any bias. That is, she should not form opinions about the client, good or bad, worthy or unworthy. She has to treat the client as somebody who has come to him/her for help, and she should be willing to help the client without being influenced by the opinions of others about the client or his/her situation. This enables the worker to build the professional relationship on a sound footing as both the worker and the client feel free to their understanding of each other. However, it is to be noted that a non-judgmental attitude does not mean not making professional judgments about the problem situation and the various options being considered in order to tackle the problem. Principle of controlled emotional involvement. The principle of controlled emotional involvement guards social worker from either getting too personally involved in the client's predicament or being too objective. In the case of the former, the worker may over-identify with the client because she finds a lot of similarities between the problem situation of the client and over life situation, or with the personality of the client. This may interfere with the professional relationship and judgments about the client's problem. The worker may start sympathizing by overindulging in the client's life, and this may interfere with the client's right to self-determination and independence. In the case of the latter, by being too objective and detached, the client may feel that worker is not interested in him/her and his/her predicament. This may inhibit the client from coming out with all the confidential information. The feelings of worthlessness and helplessness may be reinforced in the client. All this may result in a premature end to the professional relationship. Therefore, the social worker should maintain a reasonable emotional distance even while sympathizing with the client. She should indicate the understanding of the predicament of the client without showing pity or appearing to be indifferent. 2.4 Profession, a response to human needs. Each individual has a wide array of needs requiring satisfaction. Stroop, 1965. Human needs can be broadly classified as physical needs and psychological needs. Physical needs revolve around physical comforts that protect us and enable us to perform efficiently in society, while psychological needs refer to emotional and mental states such as the desire for love and affection, social recognition, spiritual fulfillment, etc. Every individual strives and struggles to meet these needs. Needs are met in complex interactions between the individual and the social environment. Sometimes, individuals fail to meet some of these needs due to certain reasons. In earlier societies, the unmet needs of people were taken care of mostly by family, or by occupational groups such as merchant guilds, or by religion, or by the political group in authority, clan, king, or the government. As societies evolved, needs became more and more complex, and helping activities had to be organized in systematic manner. The ingenuity and compassion in man enabled him/her to satisfy those unmet needs that are causing misery to people in more innovative ways, with a human touch and a scientific temperament. This, in turn, resulted in the evolution of various professions such as medicine, nursing, engineering, law, etc. Social work is no exception to this. Social work profession exclusively evolved to give relief to human society by finding permanent solutions to these unmet human needs. Poverty is a serious obstacle to meeting these needs. During the period up to the 18th century, the attitude of the society from the point of the king and the aristocracy, as well as the church, towards unmet needs owing to poverty of people were mainly due to the failure of the individual or due to the sins or wrath of the god. Therefore, there was no need to come to the rescue of such people, and they were left to fend for themselves. But with the advent of great philosophers and social thinkers, the understanding of human suffering, mostly manifested in poverty and pauperism, underwent a change. The scientific inquiry into the causes of poverty indicated that social and economic conditions rather than individual failure are the causes of poverty, and the pathetic and utterly inhuman living conditions of the poor, poverty, cause various other social problems in society. Alms giving and temporary relief measures are of no use. Permanent solutions have to work out to deal with the problem of poverty and thereby the other needs of the people, and people want to come out of poverty, and they can be helped to come out of it. The charity organization Society and Settlement House movements, the YMCA and YWCA organizations developed in response to the needs of the poor, the destitute, the illegitimate and orphan children and unmarried mothers on one hand, and on the other the disabled, the mentally disturbed, immigrant workers living in the neighborhood communities, almshouses, reformatories, and asylums. Charity was provided on scientific lines by undertaking a thorough investigation into the state of dependence and the factors responsible for it. The needy were encouraged to find resources within the family and the community and become independent. A scientific approach to charity and philanthropy replaced untrained volunteers by trained paid workers. The final outcome was the birth of the profession of social work by the late 19th century, to cater to the physical, social, and emotional needs of people. Social work as a profession responds to people's needs in ways that no other profession does. Social work brings out the full potentialities of the clients and enables them to stand on their own in meeting their needs. 2.5 Social change for humanizatiunas. The goal. Social change is inevitable and many forces of change are acting upon various social institutions. Sometimes the changes are slow while at other times these are rapid. Whenever sudden and violent changes take place, people are taken off guard and fail to cope with the disruption and disorganization caused by these changes. The changes before and during the medieval periods were slow, but since the Industrial Revolution, changes have occurred very rapidly and traditional institutions and ways of living received a jolt. This has caused great misery and suffering. In the process of social change, certain sections gain at the cost of others. This in turn causes social tensions and disorder. It is always desirable that social change be planned so as to minimize its ill consequences and maximize its benefits. Social work emerged in an attempt to shoulder this responsibility. The goal of social work is to bring about humanization of the society through a process of planned change. Social work is strongly committed to the most fundamental human values and principles: human dignity, equality, democratic way of functioning, right to self-determination, and right to privacy. Only these values and principles can establish a society with a human face. The social work profession, with commitment to social betterment, intervenes at individual, group, community, and societal levels to tackle and guide the forces of change for the good of society. Professional social workers, practicing in public or private settings, or social work educators at the schools of social work, who are in constant touch with those needs of the people which demand changes in social situations, can foresee the forces that are likely to affect change and initiate steps to maneuver change for social betterment. The areas of social change are prevention, reform, resocialization, rehabilitation and planning. Pierce, 1989. Practitioners experiment with the desired change situations at the micro level. Social work educators undertake research to analyze the social conditions and factors of change. For example, to change the position of women and empower them in society, social workers may initiate the formation of small groups of women and give them information, training and support to take decisions in key areas of their life such as education, career, marriage, etc., thereby empowering them. The results of such experiments are passed on to the policy framers, who in turn incorporate desired changes in the relevant policy areas and affect the change at the macro level. Thus, social work contributes to social change in a planned way and for the betterment of society. 2.6 Interventions in the basic units of the society. Social work practice is carried out at different levels of society. Social work intervention takes place at the level of the individual, family, group, community, and society at large. The interventions at each level are more or less independent and sometimes interdependent depending on the nature and demands of the case in point. Social work practice has developed methodical ways to intervene, and these have crystallized into different methods of social work to deal with various units of society. Casework method deals with individual and family levels, group work method with small groups and also at the family level. Community organization method at the community level and social action method at the societal level. The individual level intervention attempts to restore the social functioning of the individual. The intervention is done at two levels. At the first level, work revolves around the client alone and helps him, her to overcome his/her problem situation by bringing about the changes in his/her behavior, approaches, attitudes and perceptions towards his/her life situations. In some cases the problem is not with the individual but with the environment in which he/she is living, and it is not sufficient to work at the individual's level only. Therefore, work at the second level includes both the individual and his/her environment, be it the family or peer group, or the community or social organizations such as school, the work organization, or a social club. The family, being the basic social unit to which every person belongs, has a great influence on the well-being of not only the individual but of the entire social system. The family becomes the unit for social work intervention while providing help to the individual member of a family or the entire family. Stroop, 1965, has outlined 3 types of needs that call for family work. They are firstly those due to external factors, secondly those due to internal factors, and lastly, a combination of internal and external factors. These factors result in malfunctioning in marital discord due to miscommunications or a serious difference on attitudes and opinions among family members. Sudden calamities may disintegrate the family, such as the sudden death of the earning member of the family, separation of the spouses due to occupational demands, serious illnesses, etc. Failure of the members, particularly the spouses, to perform their roles, leading to the neglect of children, elders, and sick members in the family, may be due to lack of understanding, pressures of work, and other social commitments. The group is a unit of intervention as envisaged when a group of people have a common problem or need. The groups may either be already formed or they may be formed by the social worker. Growth and developmental problems, such as problems in the performance of social roles, decision-making processes, leadership styles, and the communication patterns, can be better resolved through a group experience rather than by an individual approach. Here the group constitutes the client system. At the group level intervention, the focus may be on a particular member of the group or a specific number of members or the whole group itself. The community as a unit of social work intervention seeks to tackle the problems, needs affecting a large number of people living in a community. At the community level, social work bridges the gap between social welfare needs and social welfare resources. It promotes cooperative and collaborative attitudes among the different groups in the community. It campaigns for the involvement of people in the community affected by the problem, need. Social work intervention aims at the empowerment and capacity building of the community. It enables the communities to present their case assertively and effectively before the local authorities and other agencies. Builds up leadership among the different groups in the community, enhances the community's decision-making capabilities and the mobilization of various resources for improving the living conditions. Social work is practiced in social welfare organizations being run under government and private auspices. The social worker as an administrator has to plan, organize, direct, and coordinate the delivery of services, has to prepare budgets for meeting the costs, has to supervise the staff, and finally, report to the higher levels about the performance of the organization. Social work knowledge is required in administering these functions. Knowledge of group work comes in very handy to the administrator for forming task groups, teams for improving efficiency and effectiveness of the service delivery, and for conducting and overseeing the deliberations of such groups, teams. 2.7 Summary. In this unit, we have learnt about the meaning of the term value and the different professional values of social work, such as inherent dignity and worth of the individual, commitment to democratic functioning, and social justice. We have also learnt about the generic principles of social work, such as acceptance, individualization, self-determination, confidentiality, and so on. We also looked into the types of human needs and the development of the social work profession to meet these needs with reference to poverty. We have also examined how social change can be brought about through planned intervention by social work process. Finally, we have information about how social work intervenes at different levels of basic social units such as family, group, and community. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.